If you are new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
Well, you guys are like internet rock stars.
With your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
Well, summer had to end sometime, and fall is here for a while. It's another opportunity, and some people will be sad that there's another job in which we can perform in the garden. But it's an important job that will benefit us and the soil in the spring to come. That is using leaves in the garden. And many people will just rake their leaves up and throw them on the curb or bag them up, put them in the curb for municipal pickup, when they're losing a valuable free resource in which they can use to enrich their soil, their garden, and their raised beds, that you can save money and mimic what nature does on the forest floor. So there's a lot of things and techniques in which one can do in order to achieve this goal. But leaves are extremely powerful. They bring nutrients up from beneath, from very deep, and incorporate into leaves. And when the leaves fall, break down, it feeds their soil. We've done this, and we've talked about this to exhaustion on the program in our weekly videos on the website, where we brought in 2,000 pounds of leaves from our property and the neighbor's property in the street, and incorporated them, just top-dressed our beds. We didn't mix them in or till them in at all, but we simply layered them on the garden bed, 24, 30 inches in height. And this was last year, November, early December, and by June we didn't know or couldn't prove that we had done anything besides showing photographs to people because they broke down.
Now, you can use most leaves. There are some such as eucalyptus, walnut, and camphor leaves that you don't want to use, or if you do use them, you want them to break down. Put
Separately.
Them in your, separately.
They do have a chemical or an ingredient which can inhibit growth of some plants.
Right. So I don't know how many people have eucalyptus trees but around here, but that's definitely walnuts and possibly the camphor, so you want to keep that in mind. Now, leaf mold is basically what you're trying to accomplish. Now, don't think of mold as a negative thing in this situation. This is a positive thing. If you ever walk through the woods, take a little hike, you'll see that the ground is covered with leaves. The ground of the forest is covered with leaves. And that's a decomposition process that's going on. And that's what leaf mold is. It's that decomposition that's happening naturally. So when you put the leaves on your garden now or before it snows, hopefully, then it's going to break down. It's going to break down over winter. It'll break down early spring, and before you know it, you're feeding your soil.
Now, you can get these leaves to break down quicker if you mulch them or run them through a leaf mulcher or over a lawnmower and bag them that way. But our goal in our garden is not to get them to break down quickly. We want to use them as a natural mulch in the spring. And when we have placed the leaves on the soil and mounded them up, it adds an environment in which critters and microscopic, all these things can live over the winter, and actually creates an environment to increase the soil web and the healthiness of the soil, because they don't have to go elsewhere or burrow down. They can live under the leaves, and leaves create kind of an insulation for the soil. It protects the soil from evaporation, erosion, and damage from the sun. In nature, all things are covered soil by some form or fashion, unless it's agricultural and man has removed that item.
Right. Now, say you are in a community garden, or you're in an area where your garden is susceptible to wind or full breezes, things like that. One thing you could do is you could put a fence around the area, a small fence. We have a chicken wire fence that'll keep the leaves in. Otherwise, when you put the leaves on, you could just wet them down, and then that'll help the decomposition process, and that way it'll kind of keep them secure there.
Some people will go around and pick up leaves that other people have bagged for them. Now, the only concern that I have, and only warning that I would put out for that particular free item on the side of the road, is some people spray trees with chemicals in order to make them healthy and keep bugs away and other means and other purposes. And two, sometimes you may have in amongst those leaves a lot of yard debris or grasses that have been chemically treated with 2,4-D or a weed and feed, and they've just raked everything up, bagged it to get rid of it. That can be detrimental to your garden in the composted form and or in the raw form, because that 2,4-D attaches itself to water molecules and then will stay sometimes in your soil over winter and then kill your broadleaf plants in the spring. So just be aware of that. When we pick our leaves up, the neighbors, I don't know if they're happy about it or not. I don't know.
But they're just confused.
But they do say,
why?
hey, these are the leaves. This is the yard debris. You're more than welcome. They identify to us what can be picked up or what is what, so we can make a choice in what we want to bring in, because obviously they're not blind. They see what we're doing and the amount of leaves that we continue to bring in and to feed our soil. When we pile those leaves up unshredded, and come spring, we can move those leaves back, and the worms have actually come to the surface of the soil, and they are feeding, and other microbes and worms and grubs and all that stuff are feeding on the leaves and taking those leaf particles and going back down in the ground. So it's enriching the soil, aerating the soil, and we try to avoid soil disturbance as much as possible, but sometimes it's required. And we don't till the leaves into the soil like some people choose to do. So that's the way we use leaves.
We use more as a mulch, and as opposed to a soil additive. It's a soil additive in a way. It's just that it's a less direct way. We're allowing to do what nature does, and that's a lot of what we do. Is we kind of mimic what nature has going on for our garden. So we're growing in the most natural way without disturbing the ecosystem too much.
There's some really cool things in which you can do with leaves right now that doesn't involve building your soil. If you have a carrot bed, if you have a parsnip bed, if you have a kale or Swiss chard, other cool hardy plants, leeks for that instance, beets, you can take leaves and mound them over these plants. I mean, really make a giant hill of based on how large your plant is, and actually create a greenhouse. Essentially, you're keeping the plants in the soil from freezing over the winter months, and then as you need it, and Amish have been known to do this, they'll rake back the leaves, pull out a dozen or so carrots, cover the leaves back over that particular area. The soil doesn't freeze. The plants do not die, but they don't grow. It's basically a outdoor refrigerator for your plants in which you can harvest all winter long. And Jerusalem artichokes, you can certainly do that with this particular method as well, to harvest as you need and prevent the soil from freezing as it would if it was just exposed.
Right. So that is that's definitely something you can do with your leaves. You can also, we don't mulch around our garlic, but when you plant your garlic, you can mulch around them. Just do a thin layer.
Asparagus beds are
good. Beds, yep.
Your perennial beds, it's really good to add a good a mulch. And
you can even put them, if you have super large containers, you can put them over those as well.
Oh, we've done that with our raised beds. We've covered them and done it that way. With the perennial beds, you can certainly mulch or leave them unmulched. Again, the mulched material will break down quicker than the full leaves. The only thing with the full leaves, you do have the potential of it creating a mat, and then it not being able to water to penetrate through it. But we've never really found that particular problem existing in our garden. Not that we've been, vigilant when it was raining. Oh, it's not. But based on the way we've done it, it's worked really, really well on the leaves. So when it comes to leaves, it may be a nuisance to some people, but do not throw them to the curb for the municipal pickup. We want to use them in our garden to benefit the soil, the microbes, the soil web, all of those things, the earthworms, in order to better grow our plants. Thank you for checking out the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. For more, go to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for full-length in-studio video and podcast replay of Season 1. Season 2 underway and added weekly. Tweet us at TWVG Show or hashtag TWVG to be part of the program.